going to call to order the Thursday, April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Halliwell Review Committee. The time is 6:39 p.m. First on the agenda, we have roll call. Mr. Girton.
Here.
Ms. Chartier.
Here.
Mr. Svegny.
Here.
Mr. Mayo.
Here.
And Vice Chair Chris Simpkins is here. And absent, we have Mr. Halliwell, Mr. Najarian, Mr. Corvo, and Mr. Porter. Second on the agenda, opportunity for public comment. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Okay. Third agenda item, the review and approval of draft meeting minutes from March 3rd and March 17 meetings. Those were sent along via email. I'll give everyone a minute to review them.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes for the March 3rd meeting and the March 17th meeting.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so fourth on our agenda, discussion, consideration, and action, YMCA of Northern Rhode Island presentation. And I would throw it over to our guests. Janine, if you would want to head up to the podium.
Well, thanks for having us back here. We're happy to see you all.
Thank you.
Well, I have a YMCA voice, so, but anyways, I just have a really quick presentation for you because after we reviewed all the information that you gave us, we kind of dove into our YUSA connections to take a little deeper look at what the demographics are and look at what we thought people here might need from a data viewpoint. So I'm going to show you that quick, show you a little quick video, and then we can just have a discussion after that. Okay? So, slide 2. Carl got this at like the absolute last minute, so. There we go. So these are the quick things that I'm going to show you. First of all, I gave you a hard copy of the community profile, and that just shows you in a 12-mile driving radius what the demographics look like, what the people are like that live in that area. And it's great, actually, because there's 44,000 people that are in the drive area. And I think the surveys that you did showed very much this. You're going to see great parallels between what you got from your surveys and what this data shows too. And we're also going to look at population growth, market segmentation, and the probability that people, how probable it is that they want to be exercisers. So there was a lot of good news. First of all, there is growth in the area. That's always something nice and something that's not always seen in Rhode Island and all communities. So it's slight, but it's still growth in the area, which is great. And then the second thing that we want to look at is the market segmentation. So I said this is a little scary, what people can tell based on census tracts and buying habits in census tracts. And that's basically what they look at. They look at buying habits, they look at ethnicity, they look at age, and then they created 64 different tapestries or lifestyles. And then there's common, I would say, habits that they see in that. So what we see here, we'll go to the next one, is that the yellow is the predominant life mode in this area. And when you drill down into what the likes and dislikes are of people in this kind of tapestry segment, they are called Parks and Rec. And it's just for that very reason. They like parks and they like recreation programs. And they are more than any of the other 64 different segments that they've identified across the entire nation, millions and millions of people, is that these people are going to be more happy with recreation pursuits than anybody else. which is really great news. And then, this was really interesting. So this is the propensity to exercise. And again, this is based on buying habits mostly, but you'll see that the green area is average expectation that these people will exercise, which is only about 15% of the population will do that on a regular basis. That dark blue is at the very, very top of exercisers. So people are going to be looking for new ways to exercise, swimming pools, all the things that you found in your surveys. The data bears that out too. And then I just have a little video clip for you, and then we can turn to our discussion items. This is what an actual collaboration between a town and a YMCA looks like, and what it might be able to look like in the future here. Whoops. I usually just right-click and say open link. Nope, you got the box. There you go, open hyperlink. There you go.
Hey, welcome to
one more slide. I actually went to that Y, and I know the directors there and stuff, so I can get more information from them if you're interested. But just in closing, I figured we could just go to the discussion items now, and we're excited about this. We definitely can help you design a building. We definitely can help you figure out what programs are going to be best, and we can definitely help you with fundraising and whatever else you might want from us. So.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So we had submitted, I think, 18 questions that members had shared to you all, and you took the time to answer them pretty completely, which we appreciate. I know those answers were shared with all of the members. I hope that you've all had a chance to look at them. I don't know that it's going to be beneficial to go through every one, so I'm curious if anybody had any follow-up questions on those specific points.
I do.
Great.
There we go. Thank you for coming back once again. I went through the questions and answers. Were you guys involved in answering them? Did a fantastic job. Thank you. Really, very thorough. Some great answers. That video is like a dream scenario for the town of North Smithfield, from my personal perspective anyway. I do have a couple of questions around it. You mentioned your community overview within what you said, a 12-mile radius, about 45,000 people. So 12 minutes. 12. Oh, okay. Certainly a much smaller demographic than Austin, Texas, right, which is like 1 million people. So a couple things. I'm wondering how this could work on a smaller scale. And second, I guess which kind of feeds into this as well, where you stand in Woonsocket right now, what is the future of that facility, and how would that impact what we might be looking at in North Smithfield?
Yeah. So it's on? Okay. So, yes, the Austin Y is bigger. So there's, I don't know if any of you have been to our McCall Y. It's about 55,000 square feet. It's on 126 acres. And it houses, well, right before COVID, we had about 14,000 members there. So we would not expect that that would be the size of anything that you would need here. There are much smaller Ys that can accomplish exactly what you want, depending on, if we all agree on what kind of amenities you want. But a swimming pool, a gymnasium, a fitness center, and maybe a room for childcare and then outside space is going to be 25,000, 30,000 square foot. So much smaller, needs less members to keep it going, less maintenance, and certainly there's examples throughout this state even of Ys that are that size. And I'll let Charlie do Woonsocket.
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we needed to look at just internally when we thought about the prospect of another location in North Smithfield was what would be the impact to the other Y. So we looked at both the Lincoln location and the Woonsocket location and did a little analysis of something that what we call it market cannibalization. So we have about 300 folks from what we believe to be more of the North Smithfield area using the Woonsocket Y. And then we have about 600 households that are using the Lincoln YMCA. So that, in terms of data, that's sort of what we would be cannibalizing. It's not thousands of people, but it's not 50 or 60 people. So we would have to look at that data in planning the future of all 3 facilities moving forward. I can't say that the Woonsocket facility is not a secret. We have 2 buildings in Woonsocket, and they're not necessarily up to the modern YMCA standard. So newer facilities that are 1 level, ADA accessible, upgraded fire systems and all that kind of stuff is very attractive. That being said, we don't have plans to turn our back on Woonsocket. So, you know, is it forever going to be in that 100-year-old building that we have in Woonsocket? Probably not, due to some parking constraints. But would we look to keep our presence in Woonsocket? That's something that I think the board absolutely wants to maintain some sort of presence in Woonsocket. Does it go heavier on aquatics or heavier on childcare or heavier on health and wellness stuff? I think that still would have to be all worked out.
So it's not so much replacing, but more growing, right? Growing opportunities versus taking the place of Woonsocket or Lincoln or anywhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't, the towns that we already operate in, we have good relationships there, and I don't think anybody wants the town, the Y kicked out of their community. So we would work to maintain that.
Good.
Does this data incorporate, how much of this, does this data incorporate of Burrville? Because they don't have anything like that. So I would think that we'd get a whole lot of people from the Burrville area coming over here just because it's a straight shot.
Yeah, and I think that definitely would draw from that area. What you can see, they did kind of like a, I have a different map that I didn't put on that thing, but it shows that the 12-minute drive time goes kind of more northwest of this location. So that does incorporate some of that, some of Burrville, and in some, some Massachusetts.
Yeah, there's not,
Yeah.
I know there's a Y in Smithfield, but there's nothing in Burrville or Uxbridge, Millville, Blackstone. So I really shouldn't have singled out Woonsocket. I mean, there's competition everywhere, right? But it looks to me like there's opportunity.
And I think you also get, again, looking at the demographics, you got people that are interested in doing more recreation. You have people interested, you have young families and kids that need to learn how to swim, and you have, you know, a lot of desire for people to be active. So I think that there's definitely a demand.
I think the opportunity for us might be to have some of those northwestern residents who aren't from North Smithfield and might be interested in something like this, subsidize something like a community membership, like they were talking about in the North Austin Y, where our community members might have, you know, reduced fees to participate or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. The 12-minute drive, is that just a Rhode Island, you know, how far people are willing to go?
No, actually, in Rhode Island, it's sometimes less than that, but no, they use a 10-minute drive time, a 5-minute drive time, a 10-minute drive time, a 12-minute drive time, and a 15-minute drive time. I asked them to look at the 12-minute because I felt like this is a more spread out area, and people are already having to travel further to go to work and, you know, find their, you know, entertainment and things like that. So I think we see with our McCall Y, certainly people are driving more like 15 minutes. So.
Okay. I think it's a valid one. I mean, Providence is about 12 minutes away without traffic from here, right? So people can relate to it. Absolutely.
I've got a question. Question 2. If the Y will provide administrative services for the entire building in place of town employees. And your answer is the Y would provide administrative services for the entire building if that is what would be desired by the town. What does the if mean? Is that a negotiable type thing, part of the package you would develop with the town?
No, it's basically that we would defer to what your opinions and your wants and desires would be. It's not something that it's not a negotiation point. It's just really trying to nail down what you want, what you feel the community wants, what the town wants. The Y is only in any place based on community desire. So we wouldn't want to, I guess what I'm saying is we wouldn't want to overstep our bounds if you didn't want us to do the administration of the whole entire building, but we also are very capable of doing it if you did.
And the other thing, only because I'm very involved with the Slatersville Church and we've got the food pantry, we would want, I think, as a community to have a food pantry in that Halliwell area. You indicated somewhere in this response that you'd like to see one facility as opposed to multiple. Is that correct?
It's more cost-effective.
Okay, and I totally agree with you. But a food pantry really, because you're just talking about a storage space, probably is not multi-purpose usable space. It's going to be a food pantry. There's not too much more you can do with that. If we did have a food pantry there, and let's say you were renting the building, you just wouldn't be renting that part of the building. Is that basically what we would do there?
Yeah, again, that would be what you wanted. We do have a
Right.
food pantry in our Pawtucket Family
How does it work?
Y.
Yeah.
It works great. It's a different location that people are coming to anyways.
Okay.
So it's very convenient for them. You know, I know the Family Y got funding for it. Certainly, we started it in COVID. But if you looked at also the Austin Y, that community garden, that you know, to get fresh produce and stuff into a
Right.
food bank is really a cool thing too.
So we do have a community garden we've used in Halliwell already. If a group in town wanted to continue that in that space, not obviously inside the building, they could do that independent of the Y, am I correct? Okay.
I was just going to comment, at the first Y I ran in Pennsylvania, it was built with other organizations built into it, similar to what you're talking about. One was a senior center, and we did Meals on Wheels and stuff out of that. It was run specifically by that organization, but they leased the space to the Y. We owned the building. We also had a hospital was in there for physical therapy. They could utilize the pool in the Y. So it was a real cross-pollination of organizations under one roof that work together. So it does work, but it also depends on how you'd want it to be set up.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions. And one of my questions was the one you answered, which I loved your answer, and it was, pardon my cold, by the way. My question was number 16, is the Y want us to build a building and then you folks rent it from us? And then you said, sounds like a sustainable plan. I sort of see the town, knowing the town, you guys can tell me if you're wrong, wanting to maintain and keep that location. Are we talking a 30 or a 40-year lease would be something that Y would be looking for? I know that, you know, I used to work for Exxon. You had a return on investment that took 15 to 18 years, and then you needed to lease that much on the lease, don't even bother. What do you guys need for the lease?
So, great question, and it's something that we've been wondering too, is like, well, if they did build it,
Right.
What would the lease be? Because we have to kind of, our goal as a nonprofit organization is to break even and provide the service. Obviously, a little extra net income, we usually use that money to put back into our facility. So if we own a facility and need an HVAC unit, we'll have a sinking fund that can go back and replace that HVAC unit. It's normally how we operate our buildings. But the cost to, eventually we'd need to get to what would be the cost to lease the building to figure out how many membership units that we would need to have, how many swim lessons do we think we could run, or how many health and wellness classes, and just try and get to a place where the whole thing makes sense financially. And again, break even or a little better is generally the goal with our YMCA. So I can't say there's a certain lease term. I mean, maybe you could get it done and maybe you could recoup the money in 10 years, but maybe it's 20 years. We'd really need to, I think the construction costs and the bond financing piece of it, however you guys would finance that, would really dictate that. But that's the really next big piece of information is sort of how big a facility would you be talking about, and then, you know, what would the cost per square foot be? And then we would plug that into some of our pro formas just to figure out, would this thing work or not work? So it's a hard number to get nailed down, but we'd love to start crunching some of those numbers to see what that would look like.
I'm curious to know how long the build in Texas took, like from beginning to with these type of conversations till doors open. How long are you talking?
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that when I was there and toured it, they did tell me, but I'll find out for you.
Okay.
in Ys that I've been involved with that were being built, it just depends on the fundraising aspect and raising the funds for it, how long that takes. If it's a fundraising effort, that can take a few years to get the needed amount of money you need for building the facility. If it were something where the funding is available now, I mean, construction, depending on when it would start, I would say is at least a year, a little bit over potentially, depending on how long the winter lasts and all that kind of stuff.
Versus floating a municipal bond, which whereas you can get the funding pretty quickly.
Yeah. So if there was funding and it was in an agreement thing we were doing, it would probably, I'd say probably start to end, it'd be at least a year to get a facility built.
Question with community groups, like we've got multiple basketball groups and soccer groups, and if you've got community act groups that want to meet and use the facility, how does that work out? Do they pay for the use of that, or how do you folks handle that kind of a situation? Let's say the soccer group is in the wintertime, they want to have practices with the kids in the gymnasium, and they want to be there Saturday morning from 9 to 10. How do we handle something like that?
Yeah, in general, I mean, right now, what we do is mostly no fees for any of our local places. We have, the pool is probably the one exception. Right now at the McCall Y, we have the Lincoln High School team, and we rent it to them for a very small amount, but it's a high-use area. But yeah, the basketball team in Lincoln does practice in the basketball courts there. And we have the football. Yeah.
So those groups, for the most part, don't have to pay if they use the facility that's available.
Right.
Yeah, I was a member of the Woonsocket Y when I was 10, and grew up playing basketball there, and swimming in the pool. That was a great experience, and I played men's leagues when I got older. Men's basketball leagues, and you paid. Yeah. And it worked great, and the Y managed it, and got the officials in, and it's got huge potential.
So you had sort of ballparked, I think it was 30,000 square foot facility for a town our size. How many people would you be looking to staff something like that?
Staff?
Yeah.
And that's a lot driven by program, but you would have, typically, you would need an aquatic, if you had a pool, you need an aquatic director, you need a membership director, you need a health and wellness director. Depending on how much sports programs are going to be running, that could be a possibility. Then those would be full-time positions. And then the rest is like they said in Austin, we are first-time employers for a lot of youth, and they part-time jobs, and it could be anywhere from, I'm going to guess, 50 maybe part-timers.
Yeah, I mean, and that was sort of the root of the question. I mean, I see this as an opportunity for a lot of our high school students to have a first job right in the community where they're not, going and working at a fast food place, but, something where they're actually serving the community in a positive way. How many residents in town are members of a Y? I think you might have thrown a number out, but I want to make sure that I catch it.
Yeah, so what we looked at is the villages and the towns that we thought would go to a North Smithfield location. Right now, we have 600 of them using McCall, and we have 300 of them using Woonsocket.
Okay.
Yeah. Your question, sorry if I may, about the youth employment opportunities. If I could put in a plug that they don't have to wait till this is built. We would happily use them in Lincoln or any other place. So feel free to send them our way, because staffing is tight all over Rhode Island, and we'd love to have them.
And then sorry, I didn't catch your name in the back, but I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about the Y you were saying, where different community organizations sort of had different parts of it. First of all, what was the name of it? And then I'm curious how that was managed. I mean, were they each, did the Y own the building, like the entire thing? Was the Y sort of overseeing it all, or did it, just tell me a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, so it was the Eastern Lycoming YMCA in, it's near Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is my hometown, but it's a part of an association. The Y fundraised and got grant money and built the facility. So it was all done through the Y, so we owned the building. It was part of our association. We leased out to those other organizations, so our CEO and myself went and met with those folks. And that was a period of time to get that set up, but we got those two major organizations to come in under one roof. The hospital had 5,000 square feet. That was their space. They managed their own space. We basically, we paid all of the expenses to the building, and they would lease it to us, so we got a payment from them at the beginning of each month. And we had an agreement with stuff like snow plowing, that kind of agreement, so it was a percentage of the bill, common area maintenance, and we also cleaned their space with our staff. So they would reimburse us on a common area maintenance based on square footage. Same thing with the senior center. It was a smaller space. That was more like 2,500 square feet. And same exact situation with them. They had a manager that ran their senior center, dealt with all their volunteers. We, as the Y, offered those volunteers opportunities because they were all seniors to come, as long as they were volunteering for their space, they could come in, use the pool, use our Silver Sneakers programs at no charge. Is what we did with those folks. So it helped them get more volunteers because they were basically getting a free opportunity to use the Y. And then with the hospital, when they would use the pool, we just had a daily agreement there. They paid us like $2 a visit, something like that, to use the pool. And it was just basically scheduling all that stuff out through the facility with the staff. We did. Yeah, the land was donated to the Y by a developer, so we got that and built the facility there. It was very successful. It was the first of its kind in the area in Pennsylvania that we set that up, and a lot of Ys. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it. That was the way we did it. We owned it, leased it out, but it could be the situation that you guys own it and we lease it from you, in this scenario. So
yeah, that's really what's interesting to me about this is that it seems like there's a lot of flexibility in the different scenarios that the Y is amenable to doing, which is great because I think we'd be interested in that flexibility. So one thing that I'm sort of interested in exploring, and I have a meeting with the board, the library board, I think next week. Part of our town's comprehensive plan, our library it's small for our community, and they could be doing more. And I know that the Y tends to be focused on recreation-facing activities and services. One of the concerns that was raised by a few residents after you folks came here last time was that whatever went into Halliwell would be too focused on recreation and wouldn't serve all of those things that people were looking for around arts, sewing classes, gardening classes, auto maintenance classes, like all these different things that people are really hoping to get from some type of community space over there. And whether that happens, through some supplemental, services that the town offers in a space that is shared with the Y, or not, I think there's an opportunity for the library to be a big part of this, because the library is in a lot of ways, it is a community center, right? I think you see over in Barville at the Jesse Smith Library or in Cumberland, they very successfully offer all of these type of classes to their community members. So, I think I would like to explore some type of, arrangement with the library and those type of, spaces to serve those needs while the Y, offers the recreation-focused stuff. But to your point, having seen this work successfully before, where these different organizations have these different parts of the building. I mean, food pantry can be a part of that, right? Where the Y sort of, does the maintenance around it, but town volunteers are actually the ones running it. I don't know, it just seems like, it's a great opportunity. We just have to sort of figure out what that looks like. you
Yeah,
know?
and in the experience I had, the more organizations that are involved under one roof, obviously they were all nonprofits, we all kind of have similar missions, what we're doing to serve the community. It just worked out really well. And the more people, more organizations under that one roof, it makes it more sustainable as well to operate a facility like that.
Let me just, I'm sorry.
And I don't speak for healthcare or anything, but I think there's an opportunity for healthcare up here too. I think, Landmark is developing 2 residency programs, young doctors being there. The rehabilitation center is going to be sold. So you could do a lot with that too. And I think now that at least Landmark is a nonprofit, I think they're much more usable in, getting these people to talk about, even having small health centers and stuff like that. So there's a lot you can do, but I think it's utilization of space for multiple different organizations.
I think it's actually good that to hear things like that, because I think my perspective at least is there's a lot of community groups, the seniors, the youth leagues that will look at this, that need space, will look at this as this is a large investment that this town is making in recreation, one that we don't typically make, but one I think we need. So to have a space for them and to be able to provide that either in partnership with the Y, and the fact that you would be able to accommodate them in some way, I think is important, because I know the seniors have spoken vocally that they need a space to go, and the fact that I think they have strong leadership, that if they're given a space, they may not need much guidance from you, but they would need space at least, but then be able to take advantage of some other things, as in the Pennsylvania Y, that you could kind of partner with, that they run their own programs, but there's an opportunity to expand beyond that with some things that you offer. I know youth groups will want to come in between Northman Hoops and Little League and soccer to do things in the winter and off seasons when they can't be outside. So to hear you speak of that was good for me to hear.
I'm just impressed you guys are yes people. I love it. You're like, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. That's awesome.
So,
Why people are pretty positive.
Yeah, I like positivity.
question number 12. You mentioned that you're going to need to do a market analysis to determine the viability for financial stability if both parties wish to move ahead. Is this part of the market analysis, or is this the market analysis?
Well, that would be part of it. I think we would have to go back to what Charlie's question was. We would have to really know what the expenses are going to be, so we can determine how many members that we need to be able to support that. So we'd have to put together a pro forma.
Okay.
If the committee tries to satisfy all the needs in town, and I don't envy the position you're in, because it's a difficult task, but if it ends up being, you know what, for the YMCA, we've got 2 rooms the size of this room. We don't need to do a big market analysis. If you say we want a mini McCall YMCA in North Smithfield, then I definitely would warrant a lot more sort of study. But this is a good this is like the initial cursory data before we would probably have to spend, 30, 40 grand on like
In-depth.
a better predictor of how many, a better custom model of looking at like the Y's current membership and other locations, seeing if that same model would exist in North Smithfield, and then spreading that model across a certain geography and making an assumption about how many people would actually join. So,
Okay.
So it definitely depends on that scope of the building, for sure.
Let me ask this question following up. To help all of us come to some sort of idea how this is going to work, would it be very helpful for you if we made a list of all the groups, organizations, and times that they'd want to use a facility, i.e., the seniors would want a facility from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. The Cub Scouts would want a facility multiple nights for 2 hours at a time, boom. would that help you and help us both come up with some ideas as to how much space we'd need, how many rooms we'd need? I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is to that, because Ys do that stuff all the time, but we don't make usually decisions on what the building is, you know, based on that. But it might be something that would be more helpful to you to determine what size building that you need.
Yeah, so I'm chuckling because it's not an envious job either. But if you guys collected that data and you wanted some input from us, from our expertise about what things fit, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether you build a building or you don't, we would absolutely volunteer our time to help you figure that out. I think it's safe to assume that everyone's going to want the space on Saturday morning from 8 o'clock in the morning to noontime, and everybody's going to want these spaces after school, particularly from like 4:30 until 7:30 at night. And so it's really probably for us, it just constantly comes down to how can we get all these people in the same space and make them happy enough. So, I mean, something as simple as putting a curtain divider in a gymnasium and splitting up the gymnasium is a pretty cost-effective way to make at least two groups of people happy. So we can certainly lend our expertise on that, but it is a really challenging thing to do. There are some really great synergies between senior schedules and the school-age population. So we're pretty quiet. We have a pre-workout group that's like 5:30 in the morning, and they're out of there by 7:15, and then our seniors start rolling in, and our moms, our stay-at-home moms start rolling in. Some of our school-from-home families start rolling in the mornings, and then the whole Y gets quiet in the noontime, and then the kids start trickling in after school. So I think that flow for any community center that flow in the day, I'm sure, is what you would see, in my opinion.
I think since our chairman is very fond of giving out assignments, it may be something that we undertake ourselves, is to put our own calendar together of all these groups, and we can then visualize how much time will be needed or taken up in that building. And I think it would kind of tell us when there's time available. If the Y needs time for programming and other activities, then can kind of get a clearer picture of that. So we can maybe look forward to doing something like that.
Let me ask a hypothetical. Sally Sue says, I've got 8 people who would really like to do pottery, making pottery. She comes to the Y. Would she come to you guys and say, do you have a room available? How does Sally Sue get a pottery lesson in the Y?
Oh, we love Sally.
Yeah.
Especially if she knows how to do pottery.
Yeah.
Exactly. We welcome that kind of stuff. I mean, we do start programs based on interest. If you've already got 8 people interested, and whatever costs there are in terms of purchasing whatever you need to make pottery can be covered, then we run a pottery class.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but let me offer this. So the town of North Smithfield has tried to put together an after-hours, they called it a nightlight program, right? The school department for years.
Zoom.
That's right.
You got it.
That's right.
You got it. No
Absolutely.
You got it.
So it takes people, it takes time, it takes management, it takes a lot of work.
What you've got here is a vibrant beginning. It's going to make the Sally Sues and the rest of this town wake up.
100%.
Oh my God, we've got a facility we could do that in.
That's
and
right.
That's going to happen.
That's right, 100%.
That's
Bob.
going to happen.
But that said, I don't think, and I'm reading through these. I read it pretty closely in the Q&A. You talk about a management agreement. That's a collaborative thing, right? That's between you and us. So we tell them what we want them to do, and they come back and tell us if they can do it or not. So I don't think this is going to be the end-all for the town of North Smithfield. This is not the answer, but this is a damn good road to go down. Yeah.
And you said it, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
we discuss with them what we'd like to do, and they tell us with their vast experience the best way to do it,
Exactly.
and what
You
they can do to
grow
help
so
us
many
do it.
programs. There's so much growth opportunity here
Please.
with you.
So I guess that sort of leads into my next question, which is, what does this process look like from now forward? Like, what steps do we need to take on our end to continue exploring, to, you know, to help you move along on your side? Like, where do we go from here, I guess?
Yeah, you guys can jump in. I think there are a lot of recreation-based architects that do this kind of work. I worked with one in Connecticut, and we did a whole field complex. We have an organization called GROW, which is kind of the de facto like building arm of the National YMCA, and they do some work for us. And they would kind of, my opinion is get some consultants involved to start doing some conceptual planning about understanding what exactly the needs are, which I think you guys have a good handle on, and then figuring out how much square footage do you need to satisfy that need, and then they have ways of estimating all the construction costs associated with that. But at some point, in my opinion, it's getting some expertise hired to plan the thing out, just to keep it moving. And then so usually, like in my past, it was hire some kind of consultant, whether it be an architect or recreation expert, and then there's some kind of subcommittee in the field complex that we did. We met with that subcommittee it took 2 years straight to meet with that subcommittee, and they happened to be, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday night meetings at 7 o'clock, and there were 2-hour meetings, and we just kind of bang out the details every Tuesday or Thursday, whatever it was, working with that consultant. They would guide you through sort of the process of how do you build a building like this and put a complex together like that.
All right, that's the question. What does Jeff want us to hire? What's his next step? He wants the town to authorize us hiring a what?
Architectural services to create a master plan.
Okay. Architectural services to create a master plan.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you said in another term. If we go out and hire this person, then that person would discuss it with your person or with you folks. In other words, if we get somebody, we say, we've talked to the Y, we really kind of think that's worth exploring. What's the next step from that?
Yeah. I mean, collaboration to me is the best use in that. So I could envision some Y personnel and some town committee members meeting with that consultant.
Okay.
And working on it together to figure out what's going to be the best way to put together some kind of program and physical plant plan.
And then ultimately, once they've met for whatever period of time it takes for them to come up with the concept, then there's a dollar amount put on that concept. And that's then when we say, okay, it's going to cost us $8 million to build this. And then we say to you, what are you willing to pay in rent being part of that? Is that correct or not correct?
That seems to be, from folks that I've talked to, that seems to be kind of the general theme of what North Smithfield is looking for, because we've talked about a fundraising effort, and that would take years and years and years to put together a campaign that would raise $8 million, $6 million, $10 million. So the vibe I've been getting from different folks in North Smithfield is they want to move faster than that, and so obviously you're going to have to recoup the cost in some way, shape, or form. And so that's a model that we could look at for sure.
Okay.
The other, just out
Thank
of
you.
curiosity, I know it's not going to be exact, but what was the general cost of the buildings that you guys built and the programming that you had involved?
Yeah, so the Y, my first Y, and that was built back in 2008, so construction costs obviously are
Is that
a
the
lot
one
more
with the
expensive.
hospital?
That's when it had the hospital. That was 14 million front to back. That was 47,000 square feet, but that also had the swimming pool, had the gym, fitness center, had 2 childcare classrooms, and then the 2 lease spaces as well as part of the Y, plus locker rooms. And all that. So we fit it all in there, and it was compact, but it worked. And then we had built another Y recently, it opened in 2015, and that was 25 million to build up, but that was bigger space. That was about 70,000 square feet.
So if we wanted something about the school, about 30,000 square feet with a pool and about, what do you think?
How much, you're saying?
Kind of.
I mean, it would
ballpark.
depend on construction costs at this point, so we'd have to figure all that out. But it's definitely, it's going to be in the teens, for sure, millions,
Okay.
I would think, yeah.
Pre-COVID, on the construction projects we were doing, most of the construction folks that we work with were somewhere around $275 a square foot. That was pre-COVID. And then in the Y, we used to say it took $1 million to build a pool, and now it's probably closer to $2 million to build a pool because there's just so many components and all that stuff. So the consultants definitely would have a really good handle on that. And the one that we typically use, and use whoever you want to use, but the one we typically have used, they build so many Ys across the country. They have a pretty good understanding of that. COVID is a whole new ball game with lead times and construction and everything, but it used to be $1 million to build a pool. It's probably $2 million, and like I said, pre-COVID, I'd say we were hearing $275 a square foot, $280 a square foot consistently.
I'll speak for myself here. It's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a substantial amount of money. This doesn't happen through fundraising. We got to put that out of our heads. It doesn't happen through fundraising. We will have to convince the council that this is of value to go out to bond and let taxpayers decide if this is a good thing for the town of North Smithfield. So it's incumbent upon us to have that discussion with the council and get them to think along the same lines as I think we all do, and that let's bring this to the voters and see if, maybe there can be some phased approach here, but there's got to be a general structure to work with. So, speaking for myself, that's the direction we need to go in. We need to tell the council, this is what we want, this is what the people in the town of North Smithfield want. We've got an opportunity for a great collaboration here with the Pawtucket YMCA. Let's bring it to the voters.
So to that end, I think maybe next steps on our side are codifying some of the ideas that we've been talking about and sort of putting a framework around what the collaboration might look like, as a committee. Pass that back to you folks and say, is this realistic? Is this something that you'd be up for doing? So we have a general framework to work with, and then going to town council and saying, here's what we're thinking. Because we did go to them and say that, we wanted to do that architectural planning, and they sort of rebuked it and said they didn't think we were ready for it. So,
Well, I think when we present.
well, yeah. I mean, this is a more solidified plan, I think, which is not out of line with what we were talking about before. It's just, a more focused approach. So I think, our next step is just to dive into this a little bit more and sort of figure out what this looks like. Community membership, are those spaces that we're talking about for, what organizations would we want to make sure are accounted for here, and what types of uses? Does it include the library? Does it include the food pantry? So let's, I guess, spend some time figuring that out, give it back to you folks, say, does this make sense?
We're happy to help in any way we can. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys, for sure.
I think, following up what Tony said, when we go to the community, though, we're going to had to have discussed it with you folks enough so we can say to the community, it's going to be a $20 million bond, and the repayment is going to be $100,000 a month. And we'll have to have, at that point, have a commitment from you folks. We will lease the building for $50,000 a month. So we can say it's going to be $100,000, but half of it will be paid for. So then we go to the community and say, here's what we got.
I'm sure there's you can run the numbers and get a financial return on investment, right? But there's another return on investment, and that's certainly the value to the community of having a facility like this. So there's it's a sell job. That's what it is, right? We have to sell to the people who will ultimately make the decision the value of what we're trying to do here.
If you guys go back, if you go back and you said that if we determine this is gonna be something more, you're gonna put in a larger market analysis to incorporate a little bit more of that western area. Did I hear you right by saying that?
Yeah, we definitely could. I mean, as you start to sort of combine all the different needs in town and figure out, and potentially work with some kind of consultant to look at the physical planning and the building costs and stuff, if at the end of the day there's enough room for a Y that's this big, or there's not money for a pool, or as those sort of conversations shake out, that would kind of determine how if it's a $50,000 a month lease, I'm making that up. I don't think we have a lease that high anywhere. But if it's a giant lease like that, then yeah, our board of directors is going to require a lot more due diligence, and that would probably be where a market analysis would come in. But I mean, there's Davies Technical School across from the Y in Lincoln. They said that they want to teach their high school students how to look at childcare as a career, and so they came to us and said, would you guys, if we give you a state-of-the-art classroom, would you guys run it? And we said, yeah, sure. So we're in the process of helping them plan the construction on that. It's almost done. And there's no rent in that situation, but our goal is to provide the staff and then attract the kids, and it becomes a learning lab. So for that one physical square footage center, it's a little bit different than a Y, but it didn't require a ton of due diligence. It's more of, just making sure the math, we can pay the staff with the income coming from childcare and all that stuff. So it depends on the scope of the building. I apologize for the long answer.
Is there a question we haven't asked that you wish we'd ask and could give us the answer?
Good question.
I think the whole thing is collaboration, all about collaboration. I don't know North Smithfield. Is there somebody really wealthy in North Smithfield? Like you go up and see Kraft. Kraft's got a facility, in Foxborough. There's, that kind of stuff. So once you get a basis of money, and I think you're right, you'd have to get a bond or something like that because it's going to be expensive. Then you start looking at donors and stuff and fundraising and all that stuff. But I think it's all about collaboration and people that really care about the wine. What I found with the Y is we're not in it to make lots of money. We got to make even, but we and people at the Y adjust to everything. We can do it in Woonsocket, what we do, and you think of Lincoln, they're always adjusting to help the community, and it's all about trying to make things better. And the more you get people in, it improves your whole community. It becomes a healthy community, but it's all about collaboration.
Unfortunately, again, speaking for myself, we are very slow to move in North Smithfield, very slow. And again, I have to relate to our job to sell this to the community. So Bob and I go back to the middle school project 16 years ago. And that's the last out of the ground municipal building project we've had in this town. It happened 13 years ago now. And it's a fantastic facility. And I think we probably all have kids who've gone through it, right? And, or grandkids. And we're lucky to have it. It passed, it failed the first 2 times it went to voters. And the third time it passed by 33 votes. Yeah, still pretty proud of the fact, Bob, we helped to get that done. Absolutely. So it can get done, but you've got to prove it. You've got to prove the value. We have a concession stand and bathrooms going up right now. That's our next. It took 13 years, and we finally have another out-of-the-ground construction project going on right now. And there was a lot of conflict around that, too, which I find utterly mind-boggling. I mean, bathrooms and concessions for people going to games, going to high school graduations, and we still had some strife around it. So it's not easy, but it can happen.
Yeah, I would say that you're not going to get much more value than you would with a Y. Like, we've been around for 177 years. The Y's going to stick around, and so I think you get long-term value. out of the Y, and obviously the programs and the things that we do for the community are definitely going to speak for themselves long-term for people. You know, we have all kinds of Y stories from people that the Y has impacted them. It's an organization that impacts people from birth to seniors, you know, the whole gamut. Not a whole lot of organizations can say they do that. We can kind of impact you your whole lifespan if you choose.
All right, any more questions? You guys have anything for us?
No.
All right.
If you are, I'm not an expert, or don't know anything about sort of town rules, governance rules, but the more interaction you guys want to have with us, you know, we're willing to meet all the time, and if we can help move it forward, that'd be great. When you go months and months between meetings like this, obviously it's stuff takes a long time, and that just is what it is. But we're happy to meet on a regular basis, however you guys see fit.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out tonight. I really do appreciate it, and being so thoughtful with your responses to the questions. I'm sure that we'll have some follow-up questions for you too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Night.
You too. All right. So.
Shake your hand, but I've been coughing in my hand too long.
Yeah. With that, I don't think there's any action to take on this agenda item at the moment. We can follow up at our next meeting.
But I think, can we talk about
Yeah, absolutely.
this? John Beauregard wanted us to have a plan before he approved the engineering firm. So I think we have to decide amongst ourselves if this is the plan we want to go. And then we go to John and say,
Absolutely.
"John, here's the plan." Now, we need an engineering firm to sit with us and with the Y to develop a program. I think that's what he and the rest of the council wanted. They wanted us to come in and tell them what the plan is. They can say yes or no.
Yep.
They can't tell us to go back again, because we just sat with these folks for an hour and 15 minutes, and we understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
We just tell them where they're coming from, where we're coming from, and that's it. Now, if they put us off, that's a problem. But I don't think he will. He wanted a plan.
Yeah.
We were wishy-washy because we hadn't done this, because they hadn't given us the authority to do it. They gave us the authority to do it, we did it, now we go back. In my opinion, that's how it works.
They brought us concrete demographics. I mean, you can go, you can't lie to this stuff. We can take this to the town and I mean, it's self-explanatory. They can watch this and see what they showed there. I mean, it's like, it's the most concrete plan I've ever, inclusive of everything that we could potentially want. They've said, yes, we'll do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I mean, the takeaway from me is that we heard it from the gentleman, you know, who's done this a number of times. The next step is to get professional services involved.
Absolutely.
And figure out, you know, what this needs to look like based on the size of our town, you know, how many people are going to be using it. So I think what we've established is that the Y is willing to work with us in some really flexible ways. And now we have to have that professional help to figure out, to narrow that down and say, okay, well, what shape is that going to take? So I think you're right that, you know, we probably need to go back to town council at this point and say,
We have to come up with a plan.
yeah, that's
Write
right.
it down,
Yeah,
present it to them. We'd like to meet with you because we want a professional engineer to evaluate the reconstruction of Halliwell.
Yeah.
With the Y. We have to tell them specifically what we're doing.
Yep.
We can't be wishy-washy. We just need a professional to work with us and the Y in developing a combined approach to the facility.
This is a national, renowned, professional organization that we're talking about collaborating it with, right? I don't think there's another that we could go down this same path with and have the same similar discussion.
We have to decide is this the path we want to take?
Agreed.
Based on all the information
Agreed.
that you so carefully collated into what the community's looking for.
And
If we say it is, then that's it.
And if it is, right? I mean, we've got 5 of us here, there's 9. So if we determine that this is the direction we want to go in for the town, or we think the town should go in, and we go to the council, we need a level of commitment. That's where, you know, I drove by there yesterday. Nothing's changed. Nothing's happening. No, I mean, we've been at this for over a year. I think we've done a lot, but extraneously, nothing's happened.
And the other thing they said to us was, they want to see us move. Because did you hear what they said? You know, it's taken a long time to get to this point, 2 or 3 months before.
Yeah, that's right.
They make,
They're looking at the timeline.
Very nice, but subtle, but direct. I heard it, and I said, okay, we don't take action, they can get tired of waiting around too.
Well,
So
they've also
we gotta
come,
take action.
they've also come and did this and realized this is a financial viability for them,
Oh, yeah.
too. I mean, bringing
It
in.
has to work for them.
They're
bringing in
talking
Borough
about
and
spending
Mass.
$30,000-$40,000 on a marketing study, right? That's a commitment on their part.
Right, that's what I was talking about when I was saying,
Yes.
what was the additional information
But
that we
they're
would
not gonna
need?
do that until we have
Right.
somebody.
Bingo.
who works with them to put together the plan, then they say, okay, now we'll do our part. We have, the ball's in our court.
Yep, and, you know, we don't make the decisions though. So, we go to the council, if that's what we want to do, if that's what we determine, we go to the council and say, look, this is what we believe you should do. And
We
let them
were too
decide.
wishy-washy the last time we were.
Well, you know what, in our defense, what kind of direction do we have?
Hold it. I know that. We were too wishy-washy. John Beauregard said to us, you're too wishy-washy. What do you want? Well, we want to possibly investigate. We have to say,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing.
Okay,
Bang. No
I'm
more
with-
wishy-washy.
I'm with you.
No more, we want to let the community think about what they might want to do with some, screw it. We have to make a plan, vote on it, and go with it. That's all.
I also think that with what they brought to us, the scope of, like, they said so many details of even just the build and the maintenance of things and the staffing and the directors.
Yeah.
That is a massive undertaking, just by what they said today, of just an operational standpoint, that our town does not have the capacity to do.
Tony's right. We got a first-class organization who's willing to collaborate with us. If we let that fall through our fingers, then we deserve what we get.
So
Simple as that.
I don't want to be the buzzkill, but I also don't want everybody to walk away from the high of talking to them. But we have to take lessons away from the last time we went to the council. And while we have absorbed this information and we have sat here for an hour and 15 and we've taken it all in, they have not. So just as you said, it needs to be a sell job to get it funded. We have to be as clear and as detailed in our presentation to the council so they know exactly what we know. And I think maybe the last time we went in with a lot of assumptions that they knew things that we knew, and it turns out I don't think they did. So I don't think we should rush to go to the council. I think we should discuss and put together a very detailed, comprehensive plan of how we feel, what we think the next step is, why we think that's the next step, and make it very crystal clear to them.
Perfect. Totally agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think we need to start that at our next meeting. Let's put agenda item, we'll plan to talk about it and start putting that, packet together. What does it all mean? What are the details around this collaboration? And like I said, we obviously will come up with that. I think that we should run it by the folks from the Y to make sure that, the way that we're thinking about it is within their wheelhouse and, it's something that they would be happy doing. What's that?
Do we have this on tape?
It'll be it's on YouTube right now. It's on
Okay,
YouTube.
my point is Jeff should see this.
Oh, absolutely.
And we should be able to review it so we can take copious notes based on what was said.
And closed captioning works too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jeff is watching from New York.
Council know that it's there. And they can take it.
And maybe ask our local council to take a few minutes to review it themselves.
That's what I'm saying. We should tell the council before we visit with
Yeah.
them to watch it
Yeah,
on YouTube.
do your own homework.
Exactly.
Well, even
We'll do the homework, we'll take copious notes, put our plan together, but hopefully they'll watch this and because all the answers are right here. They can see the positive relationship that group had with us.
Yeah.
Period. This is too simple to be difficult.
We might even have to spell out for them the financial reality of it, just as we spoke of having a bond, but also the financial responsibilities of a building. What does this town want to do? Do they want to invest in the community and in recreation, and in doing so, growing a recreation department and taking more tax dollars and putting it into there and funding it? Or would they like the assistance of an organization and take that financial burden away? That's one of the core questions that needs to be answered by the town is what kind of financial commitment, long-term financial commitment to build and to staff and to maintain this facility.
Absolutely, and that's why I asked, how many staff they'd be looking at for something that size. I think they had 4 or 5 full-time staff and then 50 part-timers. I mean, I can't imagine our town rolling up that type of infrastructure to manage a community center, with similar services that we're talking about here. So, having an organization that is established in doing that kind of thing,
They do one thing, and they do it well.
Yes.
We do multiple things. Some do well, some do well. We can't do as well.
Our Parks and Rec budget in the town of North Smithfield is about $150,000 a year. Now, if you look at a 4% increase annually, right, which is the maximum we can do to get to the level of staffing to run a facility, it'll take a few thousand years. Yep, not an option. Not the only option is to get the voters to agree and to partner with a professional organization like the Y, in my opinion.
Well, fortunately, I think that the Y is generally viewed in a very positive way in this area, so maybe partnering with them becomes a much easier sale than trying to get them to pay for something out of pocket that the town is going to run. That many people know our town does some things well and does some things not so well. So.
And the other thing,
Mark?
in our defense, I'm sure they'd love to have a facility in North Smithfield. Listen to what he was saying about the Woonsocket Law. We're not sure if we need a pool in Woonsocket. They'd like to see Woonsocket go away, make it into a child care center and a few things like that, and have the Y activity, the pool and the gyms and stuff like that, more here than there, I think. I think that there's a win-win for them, too.
Yeah.
Because I don't know of one person who lives in North Smithfield that goes to Woonsocket. They all go to Lincoln. Okay? Do you know of anybody in North Smithfield?
Well, he said there were 60 of them.
Well,
He had the actual numbers.
and how many went
Well, our high school uses their pool.
Yeah, have you guys been to the Y in Lincoln, McCall?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Beautiful facility.
Listen, it's been to the Y in
Beautiful.
Woonsocket?
Yeah.
I walked into it, and I walked out of it.
I grew up there. Yeah, I know it very well. So they are,
It's a more dungeony place in the world than the street that you twist a turn to get into. Oh my God, this is the Y. Horrible, horrible.
it's,
Well, that speaks to the marketing capacity too, that we don't really have to sell this a lot to the community because they have a built-in marketing package already, and it's right here. And they did the presentation for us. They will market it for us.
but it's the taxpayers of the town of North Smithfield who are
Yeah.
going to pay for it,
Right.
not anywhere
Never
else.
underestimate the public. You have to work and work hard and take nothing for granted, because it'll still be a tough sell, even with the YMCA name because the perception will be, it is a Y. What? I have to pay to go in? What? I have to be a member to get in there? It's a YMCA? I thought it was going to be a community building. So there has to be a clear, however this forms, there has to be a clear message of what the relationship is, if it is the Y, what the relationship
The
is.
plus will be that some of the bond, it's not all the bond, but some of the bond will be paid for by the Y being there, okay? By the action of the Y being, they will pay off some of the bond. So you're borrowing 20 million, but you're basically gonna have to pay back out of your pocket 10 million, and 10 million is being paid by the Y. That'll be a big selling point. And the fact, all this is an extension of the community park and rec program. We're just calling it the student Y, that's all. You still have your park and rec, it just happens to be now housed in the Y. Doesn't cost you anything to be under those programs, and it won't. And that's what we'll have to negotiate with them.
Yeah. Now, CJ, who's a big advocate for the town of North Smithfield, thank you, handed me this note stating ARPA money, right?
What kind of money?
ARPA.
The ARPA money.
The state has $1 billion of funds to fund projects just like this.
Still sitting out there. So, I guess, the bond is the most realistic outside of something like this. But who goes to the state for this kind of money? The council. It's still not us, the council, or the town administrator working for the council.
You need the engineer in here to develop.
Yes, that's right. You need them to buy into it. You need, as I said before, a commitment. And that's how, can we pursue this? I don't know, maybe. It's worth looking at. But until we get that commitment from the elected decision makers, we don't go anywhere.
We'll get the commitment.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway is that we have more clarity around, why that's required. We just have to convey it to the town council and make sure that they understand that to move forward, and this is a great option to do so, this is what needs to happen. Yeah. So, in the interest of continuing this more thoroughly at our next meeting, and sort of moving into that, compiling a plan phase, I think we good with this agenda item for tonight? Okay. So agenda item number 5, discussion, consideration, and action, member updates on grant funding research. Do we have any updates from anyone?
Next item?
Next item would be adjournment.
So moved.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Come on.
You can't vote before the motion is made.
I said so moved. I was moving his motion.
I didn't make a
Oh,
motion.
you didn't make-
I just read the agenda item.
That's right.
I said
Second my motion.
second motion.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second for Mr. Mayo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is
And
an excellent meeting.
the meeting is adjourned at 8 p.m.